Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unkyjoe here, Unkyjoe's Playhouse. Today we're going to play with some cameras, outdoor cameras. So let's get the video started right now. So let's talk about this camera right here. The folks over at Reolink sent me this camera. It's the RLC-820a. Now, I mistakenly thought this was a pan, tilt, zoom outdoor camera. No such luck, but that's okay. I really don't need a PTZ camera outdoors. But let me tell you why Reolink sent this to me. As you may or may not know, I use the Blue Iris surveillance system to do my video cameras around the house. Now, some of you may not be interested in Blue Iris because it does require Windows to run on, but I find, bang for the buck, it's the best surveillance program out there. It beats them all, hands down. I think the Synology surveillance station is $50. You get 2 free licenses, and then it's $50 per camera from then on. Well, I have, right now I have 9 cameras, so yeah, I'm not going to be paying that price for a license for cameras when I can get Blue Iris for about 60 bucks, 60 or 70 bucks. But anyway, I digress. I purchased a Reolink camera, and I used that Reolink camera, bought it over a year ago, as on my, originally it started out on the back of the house, and I had problems with the camera. So we moved it up kind of under sheltered conditions, even though it's an outdoor bullet type camera. We moved it up to the front porch, and I've still continued to have problems with that camera, even though I've got the latest, greatest firmware on there. I've got a good network connection and all that. Occasionally the camera will just, for whatever reason, go offline and lose its mind. Well, evidently the folks at Reolink, because I gave the camera not a very good rating, and said I actually preferred to use Amcrest cameras because they were reliable and dependable and budget consciously priced. The folks at Reolink reached out to me. Oh, it's been about 3 months now, 2 months ago, during the height of Corona, the thing that cannot be spoken of. And they said, hey, we'd like you to give us another chance. If we send you a camera, will you do a review on it? And I said, sure. So that's when they sent out the RLC-820a. And like I say, I mistakenly said this was a pan, tilt, zoom camera. It's not. It's just, it looks that way, right? It looks like it's a PTZ. Now, some of the features are, it has a smart alarm with person vehicle detection, 24/7 recording of motion, recording. It's power over Ethernet, plug and play, micro SD card slot. It's IP66 waterproof and has easy remote access. Now, I'm not interested in the smart alarm or any of the features built into the camera. I just need a camera that can produce a good image, rock solid steady image, PoE, one that I can play with the frame rate on, feed it into my Blue Iris, and let Blue Iris do all the face detection and all that stuff. So those features are really wasted on me. Now the camera, when I got it, it took about, like I say, 2 months to get here. And you can see the box has been beaten to hell. But the camera was intact, with the exception of one thing. Now, one of the things I really like about this camera is it comes with a base plate to mount it on. Not that the Amcrest cameras don't, but as you can see, there's a piece missing on this camera. And that's one of the tabs that is right there. Now, that's a metal plate. So the idea is you mount this metal plate on your wall, and then the camera pushes on and twists on to lock it into place. Well, when I got this thing, I had a hell of a time getting it off. The instructions were press down and turn. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get it off. Finally, I pried up with a little bit with a screwdriver until I guess it got past one of these little lips, and then it was able to turn. But I didn't hear anything break, and there's nothing broken inside the camera. So my question is where did this little tab go, or does it not need this tab? Well, I mounted this on the wall outside because the idea was this was going to be my pool camera to monitor my pool. And I mounted it up there, and I ran a PoE cable out to it. I didn't secure the cable or anything. I just mounted the thing with it. And that's one of the things I really like about this Reolink camera is the mounting base. It's really nice. So I hung the camera up, and I went to bed, and the next morning I woke up and I came and looked at my surveillance system, and the camera was pointing down at the ground. So I went outside, and somehow, some way, as secure as this is, maybe I didn't turn it and click it, maybe the problem was me, but it had fallen off of there and was hanging by the cable. Luckily I still had the ladder up, because the ladder caught the cable and kept the camera from hitting the ground. I was like, oh, well, that's odd. Why did that happen? So I put it back on the base and made sure it was secure. And this time I took the cable and moved it to the side and secured it. So my thought was, well, maybe the wind caught this thing and knocked it onto the ground or something. But that didn't what happened. So I let the camera up there. The other odd thing it was doing is that in Blue Iris, the camera, usually I have my cameras on my display, and I'll show you that here in a minute. This camera would take like a snapshot and show that as a live image, and then I'd have to actually click on the feed for the camera to see any motion on the camera, if that makes sense. Now I managed to get the frame rate adjusted down to where I got a stable, it wasn't starting and stopping every few seconds like it was on 25 frames per second. I think I put it down at something like 16 or something like that. And I finally got a steady image out of it, and it was fairly good quality. So I went to bed secure in the knowledge that the camera wasn't going to fall off the wall again. However, I woke up the next morning, came into my surveillance system, and it said it could not connect with the camera. That was just a gray screen that Blue Iris gives you and when it's lost connectivity with the camera. Now, when you first set these cameras up through the software, the first thing they do is make you change the admin password. And I did. And I used a secure password. I had a password generate a secure password for me. So I changed that. However, the next morning I came in, no image on the screen, and it said it lost connectivity. So I ran the Reolink application. It's a little program you run under Windows, and it noticed my front door camera, was able to log into it, but when it tried to log into the camera at the pool, it came up and said the password was invalid. So I tried admin again. That didn't work. I tried admin, and the password I had assigned to it that had been running fine for 2 days, to no avail. So that meant I had to go out there, bring the camera down. Well, I could have reset the camera right on the wall, but at this point I didn't have, and we had a storm, not a real storm, we had rain. We didn't have a lot of lightning and thunder, but we did have a storm that night. And I wondered if maybe water got into one of the connections. So I went ahead and took the camera down, and I put it in here on my bench, and did a factory reset on that camera. And so far, so good. I haven't had any more issues with it. So the next step of what I will do is take that camera and put it outside, and I'll let you know how that works out. Now, when I say outside, I'm just going to basically mount it on a wall as close to my network closet as I possibly can, in a place where it'll get rained on, and in a place where it'll get actual use. So what I may do is make that be my driveway camera and put it down relatively low, and it'll tell me when any vehicles are driving into my driveway. And we'll leave it out because this week's supposed to be a rainy week. So there'll be another part to this video. I wanted to get this video out sooner rather than later because Reolink has been waiting for me to do this. And we'll make a two-parter out of it. But like I said, I wanted to get this video out just so you can see the part I've had so far. I haven't given up on this Reolink camera because it could be user error. It could be, could be something I've done. So we're going to start over, and like I said, I've got a new home where I want this camera to go, and it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. So there's the picture with the Reolink just mounted on my bench. So let's go out and look at the settings on this camera, and it'll give you an idea of how the how the app works. So I can flip the image if I need to. I could do mirroring on the image if I need to. And I can put the name, and I've got it on the bottom right, but you can move that anywhere. You can hide it. Same way with the time and date. It's on the top center. Whether or not to put a watermark on it. Anti-flicker. Day and night setup is auto. You can set up a privacy mask, so we could mask part of the settings out. And let's go under advanced. We can adjust the brightness, contrast, saturation, tint. Let's see if it has any effect. Oh yeah, that's much better. Yeah, that camera does run kind of on the dark side, but it is an overcast day here. So there's a lot of features just in the initial setup software that I like. I really like compared to the Amcrest, I like this this setup. These are the resolutions I can have, and you can see when I go down to 1440. Let's see if we have to. Do we have to save this? No, I went down to 1440. There it goes. So it's disconnected. Now it's connecting. So we'll see if the image is any different. Okay, and you see how it zooms in the image. So if you don't keep it at the native resolution, you kind of lose that wide angle feel to it. So that's at 1440. So we'll go back to 3840 by 2160, and then the camera's going to have to reset itself. And I want to give you a real world example of how this camera resets itself. So, you know, other than the problem with it falling off of the side of the house, which could have been my problem, and the fact that it lost its password, those are the only two issues I've had with it. So I think I'll keep it at that resolution level. But this is what I was talking about. You can't go any higher than 25 frames per second. I could put it at 15, and I could bring the bit rate down. Let's see what happens if I do that. Yeah, it seems to be working just fine. So I can set it at 15. However, I don't get, on my surveillance system, I get a much different view. And I'm not zooming in on it. I may need to set I'm not getting this view you see here on my surveillance. Let me switch to my surveillance real quick, and I'll show you what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting as compared to this from the camera. So, yeah, and that's probably due to a setting on Blue Iris, but I just wanted you to see that. And you can see what it does to my display on my surveillance system. This is with 10 cameras, right? 4 and 4 is 4 times 2 is 8, 9, and 10 cameras. Okay, so just FYI. So let's go back to the Reolink. So why you can't set this camera for 30 frames per second, I don't know. Maybe it's not capable of doing it. But then you can also set the backup rate at 640 by 360. Let's see, surveillance. Yeah, so if I were to record, so here's all the features with recording. I could then send it to an FTP server, push it out, push notifications, your network settings, and I just let it go DHCP. Let's see if, and UPnP is disabled by default. Right now, though, I don't have an SD card plugged into it. And then you get some system information here like user management, date and time, maintenance to upgrade the firmware, etc. But yeah, the application's not bad. I actually prefer it to the Amcrest. But yeah, it works really well. And as you can see, that's got a pretty darn good image on it. Now let me go over to my surveillance machine and see if I can't get that resolution set correctly. Alright, so I'm over on my WinRAID server, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up the console for Blue Iris so I can play with the camera settings. So there's an update I'm not going to worry about. So I'm going to right click on this camera and go to settings. And on the video, I want to force the size, and I want to make it sure it's set to 3840 by 2160 and 15 frames per second. I want to match what I've got the camera set at. So I'm going to click OK, and then it should reboot the camera. And now you can see I'm getting the full view. Let me go to my Chrome. And now I'm getting the full view in the camera that I wasn't getting before. You can see it there. So that's an improvement. Alright, so now I can close out Blue Iris. It's still running in the background, and you can see now with 10 cameras, we're getting about 25% CPU usage and about 3 gigabytes of memory. So I'm glad I went ahead and I have 16 gig of memory in that server, but it's handling the load well, and you know that's to be expected when you have multiple IP cameras recording. And actually, I don't have this camera set to record all the time. I have it set to record when there's motion. So let's go back to the Reolink, because what I want to do is I want to take their little watermark out of there. So let's see if I can find it. Let's see, go to info maybe? No, audio and light, stream. Okay, display, bottom right. There it goes. Okay, I took the watermark off. I don't need the camera name. I don't need the time and date because the surveillance software keeps track of that, and I don't need the name of the camera in the bottom right. So I'm just going to hide all those, close it, and yeah, we're good now. So there you go, YouTube. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative as always. Don't forget to come back and see us for part 2. This should be up in a week or two. I want to give it time for the camera to be in and get exposed to the weather and see if it's going to be reliable. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Give us a like down below if you liked the video, and leave your comments in the comments section. Donate if you're so inclined. PayPal, Patreon, and the YouTube join function. And for those of you that use cryptocurrency, we're looking at a new service called Subscribestar, because we don't know what's going to happen to Patreon in the future. So we want to keep all of our options open to collect money from you gracious people that want to donate to help keep the channel up and running. And a special thanks to Reolink for sending us this camera. It's going to be fun playing with it again and figuring out where it's best suited. So anyway, thanks for coming to see us, and please don't forget, we'll see you on the other side.